Despite their outward success and appearance of happiness, something darker was taking root in their relationship. Zecora was made the manager in his father's company. He caught the eye of Marissa, a stunning woman who had recently joined the team. With her voluptuous figure, her beautiful black shiny skin, her blonde braided hair and her intelligence and charisma, she was everything Zecora had dreamed of. His heart stirred whenever he saw her, a feeling different from what he shared with Zittery. A wave of guilt engulfed him as he remembered his sister, and he held his face with his hands. One evening, as they were dining in a lavish restaurant, Marissa confronted Zecora about Zittery's excessive presence in his life. "I don't like how close you two are," she declared, her tone serious. "If you love me, you need to distance yourself from your sister," she said. She felt it was unnatural and inappropriate. She made it clear that if he truly wanted a future with her, he had to choose between her and his sister. Zecora, although deeply connected to Zittery, found himself torn. The intense and complex relationship with his twin sister was something he had never been able to explain to anyone, but now it was threatening to destroy the very thing he wanted with Marissa. Zecora sat in his office, his fingers drumming nervously on the desk as he replayed Marissa's words in his mind. "If you love me, Zecora, you need to distance yourself from her." It was a demand he never thought he would hear from someone he cared about. He leaned back in his chair and sighed, running a hand through his hair. He had always known that the bond with Zittery was unusual, but how could he explain that to someone who couldn't understand it? Meanwhile, Marissa had been calling him more frequently, her sweet, sultry voice only making the situation more complicated. He was drawn to her in ways he hadn't anticipated. Her beauty and confidence were intoxicating, but the more he got to know her, the more he realized that she wasn't willing to accept the reality of his relationship with Zittery. He loved Zittery, but in Marissa he found his completeness. She saw it as something possessive, unhealthy, and perhaps even dangerous. Zecora, unsure how to explain the depth of his bond with his sister, started to pull away from Zittery. Zittery, on the other hand, noticed the change immediately. Her brother had always been her confidant, her protector, and her closest companion. The sudden distance between them left her feeling vulnerable and abandoned. Every time she tried to speak to him, he became distant, his responses short and emotionless. She knew something was wrong, but she couldn't grasp what had changed. One day, Zittery found out that Zecora had been secretly dating a woman named Marissa. The jealousy burned in Zittery's chest, and she knew she could not allow it. Zecora and Marissa had become close, and Zittery couldn't bear it. Her brother was moving on, but she wasn't ready to let him go. She refused to watch him give his love to someone else, after everything he had done to her. "I won't let you have her," Zittery said one night, her voice shaking with fury as she confronted Zecora. "You can't have Marissa after what you've done to me. It's impossible. I won't allow it." Zecora stood still, his face unreadable. "You can't stop me, Zittery. Marissa is mine now." "No, no, no," Zittery shouted, her voice rising in desperation. "You have ruined me. You have destroyed every relationship I ever had. No, never, I won't let you." Zecora's eyes darkened. "I will not allow you to control me, Zittery. You never could anyway." As Zittery stood there, tears streaming down her face, the realization hit her hard. She had never truly had Zecora's love, not in the way she had wanted. And now, she has lost him forever. Frustrated, Zittery sought out Zecora for another confrontation. "You need to end things with Marissa," she demanded during a private meeting at their favorite restaurant. Dressed in a stunning outfit, Zittery was all elegance with her slender curvy body, yet her eyes burned with jealousy. "Zittery, I found love with Marissa," Zecora replied firmly, his voice steady but tinged with sorrow. "We need to end this unhealthy bond. It's not right." "Oh. It's now you know it is unhealthy. Many times I pleaded with you to put an end to this unholy act. You refused, saying it's natural, and you never allowed me to be in any relationship." I don't really mean to," Zecora said. "Oh no, me, Zittery replied back in anger. "You chased Zeno, Ao, Chitty away, and above all Dave, the only man I have ever loved, and loved me in return." She laughed a dangerous laugh. Mr. Man, you must be insane if you think I will let you have a relationship with any woman. Better wake up, bro. Omo me, I no go gree for you not turn by turn. After you scatter my life, you one come enjoy your own, she said in broken English. Impossible, as she shook her head over my dead body. If you can't choose me, then I will make the decision for you. Zecora stood there in the quiet, beautiful, and expensive apartment, his heart pounding as he processed what had just transpired. He had never seen Zittery so hurt, so broken. The words she had spoken echoed in his mind, and the guilt gnawed at him. If you can't choose me, then I'll make the decision for you. Her voice, filled with pain and finality, haunted him. He knew he was at a crossroads. He had always been there for Zittery through everything. They had been inseparable, their bond unbreakable. He had persuaded her to abandon Dave and other suitors that came to court her. He sank down onto the couch, rubbing his hands over his face. The apartment felt suffocating now. A space that once brought him comfort now seems like a reminder of all the tangled emotions he was trying to navigate. His phone buzzed on the coffee table, snapping him out of his thoughts. It was a message from Marissa. I have been waiting for your call, Zecora. We need to talk. You've been distant lately, and I'm not sure I can wait much longer. Call me. Zecora stared at the message for a long time, his mind racing. He knew what he had to do, or at least, what he thought he had to do. He needed to make a decision, and quickly. But the weight of it all felt unbearable. After a few moments of hesitation, he tapped out a response. I will be over in an hour. We need to talk, Zecora texted back. With a heavy heart, he stood up and grabbed his jacket, heading out of the door. As he drove to Marissa's apartment, his mind swirled with thoughts of Zittery's hurt expression, her voice laced with betrayal. He could still hear it in his head, the way she had told him she would never forget this. The truth of her words settled like a stone in his stomach. When he arrived at Marissa's apartment, she greeted him with a smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. She had been waiting for him, her posture tense as she ushered him inside. You came, she said, her voice a little more guarded than usual. Zecora forced a smile, though it felt weak. Of course I came. You wanted to talk. She crossed her arms, studying him carefully. I've been thinking, Zecora. I don't like the way things have been going with you and your sister. I've tried to understand, I really have, but I can't keep feeling like I'm competing with someone who should be, well, family. Zecora's heart ached as the words sank in. He didn't want to admit it, but deep down, he knew that Marissa was right. The way things were between him and Zittery, how they always seemed to revolve around each other, was unhealthy. But it was hard to just let go of the life they had built together. His loyalty to Zittery ran deep, and the thought of turning his back on that was suffocating. I don't know what to say, Marissa, he said, his voice strained. Zittery and I have always been close. Maybe too close, I don't know. But that's just who we are. I can't promise I'll just walk away from her. Marissa's eyes narrowed, and she stepped closer to him. Then I guess you've made your choice, she said, her voice cold now. I can't keep waiting around while you stay stuck in some toxic bond with her. If you can't choose me, then I don't think we can continue this. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. Marissa was right. He knew it. He had to make a choice. But even as he realized that, a part of him felt like he was losing something precious, something irreplaceable. He stared at her, torn. You don't understand, Marissa. This isn't just about you and me. It's about the fact that I've always had Zittery, and I don't know how to just let that go. Marissa's expression softened, but only slightly. Zecora, I'm not asking you to let go of her forever. I'm asking you to let go of the way things have been. We can't have a healthy relationship if you're still holding on to something that's hurting both of us. Zecora felt a pang in his chest. He wanted to be with her, but he couldn't deny the history he shared with Zittery. He took a deep breath, trying to clear his mind. I need some time to think. Marissa nodded slowly, her eyes filled with a mixture of disappointment and hurt. Take all the time you need. But just know, Zecora, that I'm not going to wait forever. Zecora left her apartment with a heavy heart, his mind swirling as he drove back to his own apartment. He knew he had to make a decision, but in that moment, nothing felt clear. All he could hear were the echoes of Zitteri's words and the growing tension between his loyalty to her and his desire for a future with Marissa. The following weeks were filled with tension. Zecora continued to see Marissa, but Zitteri's jealousy simmered beneath the surface. She could feel Zecora drifting away and grew desperate. She was sitting in her fashion studio trying to sketch some fashionable stuff, but she couldn't concentrate. She was crying bitterly. She angrily threw the sketches on the polished marble floor, saying, "Why me? God, this can't be happening to me. Zecora, you can't abandon me like that. I will not let it happen." The day of the confrontation arrived when Zitteri decided to meet Marissa at a local bar, where they serve goat meat pepper soup and other local delicacies. Fueled by a mix of anger and desperation, she donned a striking, expensive, teal-green velvet gown that accentuated her slender, curvy body, paired with high white heels that displayed her beautiful, shapely legs and gold earrings that glimmered under the dim lights. With every step, she felt the weight of her purpose, confident and determined to reclaim her brother's attention, even if it meant playing a dangerous game. Marissa arrived in tight jeans and an orange African print crop top that flaunted her flat tummy and defined waist, and curvaceous hips embodying the kind of confidence that both intimidated and intrigued Zitteri. They ordered drinks and goat meat, and soft Afro music was playing in the background. The atmosphere is thick with tension. After they finished eating, Zitteri initiated her bold proposal. "How much do you need to leave Zecora and find love elsewhere?" Zitteri asked, her voice steady, masking the tumultuous emotions swirling within her. Marissa's eyes widened in shock, the realization of the twisted relationship they shared crashing over her. "What are you talking about?" She replied, "I thought you were inviting me here to accept my relationship with your brother." Zitteri repeated herself, saying, "Babe, name your price and disappear from Zecora's life for good." Bewildered, Marissa questioned Zitteri, "What do you mean?" Zitteri replied, "You heard me clearly," her tone dripping with ice and venom. Marissa, taken aback, replied, "I won't leave him, not for any amount of money or for a possessive manipulator like you. He loves me dearly, and you must be a psycho for saying that." Frustrated, Zitteri watched Marissa leave, feeling a sense of defeat wash over her. Zitteri's anger boiled over as she realized Marissa wouldn't back down. Her jealousy twisted inside her like a coiled serpent, and she was determined to do whatever it took to reclaim her brother's affections. She invited Zecora to her apartment, planning to seduce him into a relationship that felt increasingly twisted and fraught with complications. Zitteri stood in the living room, her long, dark, curly hair cascading in soft waves down her back. She wore a seductive green lace lingerie set that accentuated her slender, curvy figure, leaving just enough to the imagination. The dim lighting of the lavish living room created an intimate atmosphere, but her heart raced with desperation, knowing how far she was willing to go. "Please, sweet Zecora," she implored, her voice trembling as she took a step closer to him, her doe-like eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We can't let anyone come between us." She reached out, brushing her fingers against his arm, hoping to ignite the spark of their past. Zecora, however, felt a wave of revulsion wash over him. He turned his head away, struggling to process the emotions swirling within him. "This isn't right, Zitteri," he exclaimed, pushing her away gently but firmly. "We can't do this anymore. You know it's wrong." His rejection stung, and Zitteri felt a pang of despair as she watched him step back, the warmth of his body leaving her like a fleeting memory. "You're the one who doesn't understand," she cried, her voice rising in frustration. "What about everything we've been through? You can't just throw it all away because of some girl." Zecora's jaw tightened as he wrestled with his conflicting emotions. "It's not just about her. This isn't healthy for either of us. You need to let go, Zitteri. This is not love, it is a sinful obsession, an incestuous act." Her heart shattered at his words, but she wasn't ready to give up. She dropped to the floor, tears streaming down her cheeks as she buried her face in her hands. "You can't do this to me," she sobbed, her words muffled. "You know how much I love you. I can't survive without you." Zecora knelt beside her, torn between compassion and revulsion. "Zitteri, you have to understand," he said softly, placing a hesitant hand on her back. "We're not meant to be together like this." He was disgusted with himself, something he had never felt before with Zittery. "I love Marissa dearly. We're twins, and what we had, it's not healthy. I acknowledge the fact I started it." Zittery looked up at him, her eyes wide and filled with desperation. "If you can't be with me, then you won't be with anyone," she vowed, a sinister determination creeping into her voice. "I will make your life miserable, Zikora. I promise you that." Zikora recoiled at her words, the fear pooling in his stomach. "You're not thinking straight," he said, his voice steadying. "You need help, Zittery. This isn't normal." "But you, Zikora, started it all." In that moment, Zittery felt the full weight of her despair, a tumultuous blend of love and anger that threatened to consume her. She knew she was crossing a line, but the thought of losing him was unbearable. "Just one more time," she begged, her voice a low whisper filled with vulnerability. "Please, Zikora. Just one more time." Despite his better judgment, Zikora felt the familiar pull of their past. The memories flooded back, the laughter, the warmth, the connection they had always shared. He hesitated, torn between the twisted bond of their childhood and the life he wanted to build with Marissa. "Okay," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But this is the last time." As they shared an intimate moment on the luxurious sofa, unknown to him, Zittery had planted a camera in the living room, ensuring that this encounter would be documented. She wanted to hold on to this moment, to make sure he could never truly escape her grasp. Zikora pulled away after their encounter, his heart heavy with regret. "This is it, Zittery," he said firmly, his gaze hardening. "We can't go back to this." He was disgusted with himself, something he had never felt before with Zittery. "I love Marissa dearly." Zittery's eyes flashed with a mix of desperation, love, and fury. "You think you can just walk away? I won't let you. You'll regret this, Zikora. If you leave me, you'll be sorry." With that, Zikora left the apartment, the air thick with tension. As the door clicked shut behind Zikora, the silence enveloped Zittery like a shroud, amplifying the pounding of her heart. She sat in the dim light, her thoughts racing. Each breath felt heavy with despair as she replayed the encounter in her mind, the look of disgust on Zikora's face, his rejection echoing in her ears, and the realization that their relationship had morphed into something unrecognizable. Zittery remained in the dim light, a mix of emotions swirling within her, a dangerous concoction of love, anger, and desperation that threatened to unravel everything they had ever known. She thought about the terminated babies, rejected suitors, and wept uncontrollable, tears staining her beautiful face. Zittery rose from the sofa, her movements tense and jerky, a storm brewing inside her. She paced the lavish living room, the walls feeling closer with every step. Each memory of her and her brother together felt like a dagger to her heart. They were twins, bound by blood and a shared history. But now, he wanted to forge a new life without her, and that thought sent her spiraling into a dark abyss. She cleaned her tears and smiled at herself as she paced round her living room, her heart pounded in her chest, a sense of victory building within her. She had him cornered, trapped in a psychological web of her own making. She could see it in his eyes the moment she called: fear, confusion, desperation. He had always known how to manipulate her. Now it was her turn to manipulate him just as he did to her, and make him dance to her whims. But this time, it was different. She had something far more powerful than his broken promises. She had proof. She couldn't help but laugh bitterly as she sat in the dimly lit apartment, watching the videos of their twisted encounter, replaying the images of their shared moments. And now, Zikora wanted to leave her for Marissa, the woman who knew nothing of the darkness that bound them together. "You're nothing without me, Zikora," she whispered to herself, watching a video clip from years ago Zikora sent to her when Zikora had promised her that he would always be there, that she was his, that they would never be apart. How easily those words had slipped from his lips. How easily he had lied. As they grew older, Zikora had chased away any worthy suitors who dared to approach Zittery. He made it clear that no one could have her but him, reinforcing a bond that felt more like a prison than a relationship. Each time Zittery had found herself pregnant, Zecora had convinced her to terminate so many pregnancies, whispering promises of their future together, ensuring that her loyalty remained unwavering. In those moments, Zidori had felt a mix of love and manipulation, believing that Zecora was protecting her from the world's cruelty. But now, he wanted a life beyond their twisted connection, a future with Marissa that didn't include her. The thought ignited a fire in Zidori, a determination that was fueled by betrayal. As Zecora sat at dinner with Marissa, his mind was a storm of conflict. He adored Marissa, her laughter, her lightness, her dreams. They talked about travel and a future filled with joy. But every time he laughed or leaned in for a kiss, a nagging fear pulled at him. What would Zidori do if he pushed her too far? After dinner, Zecora received a text from Zidori that sent chills down his spine. "You think you can move on without me? I have everything I need to ruin your life and hers. You're nothing without me, Zecora." He felt the blood drain from his face. The implications of her words were terrifying. How much did she really have? He had never imagined that Zidori would stoop to such lengths, but now he was trapped, caught between the woman he loved and the sister who he had manipulated for many years. Marissa, noticing Zecora's sudden change in demeanor, reached across the table, concern etched on her face. "Are you okay, my love? You seem distant." "Yeah. Just thinking about some family stuff," Zecora replied, forcing a smile. But the truth weighed heavily on him, a dark cloud hanging over their perfect evening. As he left the restaurant, Zecora couldn't shake the feeling that Zidori was watching him. He felt her presence in the shadows, lurking like a predator waiting to strike. When he arrived home, he hesitated before stepping inside. The house felt empty, echoing with silence. He made his way to his bedroom, but the weight of Zidori's ultimatum pressed down on him. He needed to act. Taking a deep breath, he picked up his phone and called Zidori. It rang for what felt like an eternity before she answered, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. Well, if it isn't my favorite brother. What is wrong, Zecora? Missing me already? Zidori, we need to talk. This has gone too far. You can't keep threatening me like this, he said, trying to sound firm but failing to hide the tremor in his voice. Threatening? I'm merely reminding you of what you stand to lose. You think Marissa will love you the way I do? You'll never be free of me. You're mine, she said, a chilling finality in her tone. What about the life we've lived? I can't keep doing this, he exclaimed, frustration boiling over. You can't force me to choose you over my happiness. Watch me, she hissed, and in that moment, he felt the full weight of her fury. She continued, her voice low and dangerously calm. You have until tomorrow evening to end things with her. If you don't, I'll make sure everyone knows the truth about us. I have all the evidence I need. Your precious Marissa will never look at you the same way again. You'll lose everything. Zecora's heart raced as he realized the depth of her resolve. He had to act quickly. You're sick, Zidori. This isn't love. It is a sinful obsession. Call it whatever you want, but the choice is yours. I'll be waiting for your answer, she said, hanging up the call without giving him a chance to respond. He stood in the middle of his room, panic coursing through him. He felt trapped, with nowhere to turn. She had made it clear that she would stop at nothing to keep him from moving on, and the fear of losing everything he had built with Marissa gnawed at him. As the night wore on, Zecora paced his room, contemplating his options. He could confront Zidori, try to reason with her, but deep down, he knew that wouldn't work. She was capable of anything. Zecora sat in his car. His heart hammered in his chest as the enormity of Zidori's ultimatum washed over him. His life, his love, his future, all were at risk. Could he betray Marissa to keep the truth buried? Could he let Zidori win? He immediately texted Marissa, desperate for some semblance of sanity in the madness. Marissa, I need to talk to you. There is something you need to know. Please, come to my place as soon as you can. As he waited, pacing back and forth in his apartment, the minutes stretched into what felt like hours. His mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. What if Marissa couldn't understand? What if she turned away from him in disgust? The sound of the doorbell broke him from his thoughts, and he hurried to answer it. Marissa stood there wearing a beautiful jumpsuit, her concern evident in the furrow of her brow. She stepped inside, her eyes immediately locking with his, searching for the words that he couldn't seem to find. "Zikora, what's going on?" she asked, her voice soft but insistent. He took a deep breath, bracing himself for what he knew would change everything. "I have to tell you something about me and my sister. It's complicated, but it's the truth." Marissa's face shifted with confusion, then concern. "What about her? What has she done?" Zikora hesitated. "She has been controlling me for years," he lied. "The reverse was the case. What you don't know is that we've been involved in ways that no one should be. She's threatening me, Marissa. She's saying if I don't choose her, she'll expose everything we've done." Marissa recoiled, her face going pale. "What do you mean by everything?" "Zikora, this is beyond what I thought. Why didn't you tell me before?" "I didn't know how it started. I guess years of neglect by our parents. Zittery and I found refuge and love that our parents denied us, in each other's arms. We often see our parents having intimate moments with each other, and we thought it was a normal thing to do. And that was how it all began. I didn't want to lose you, Marissa. But now she's giving me an ultimatum. Either I stay with her, or she ruins both our lives." The silence between them was thick, heavy with the weight of Zikora's confession. Marissa seemed to shrink back, as though she was hearing an impossible story unfold before her. "God forbid! Zikora, this is an incestuous affair. A terrible sin, in the eyes of God Almighty. How do you feel having intimacy with your own blood?" "Terrible! The world is indeed coming to an end," she said, bewildered and disgusted at the same time. "Please, my love, say something." As he tried to hold her, Marissa slapped him hard on his face and moved away. She was still shaking from what she had heard. Zikora knelt down on his knees, pleading and sobbing like a child, but then she stood tall. She loved Zikora. He was her dream man, wealthy, very handsome, interesting and caring. She can't let him go, so she decided to forgive him and made plans on how to deal with Zittery. "I have forgiven you for this horrible relationship with your sister. You know I love you, Ziko." She went to where he was kneeling and wiped his eyes, with the back of her hands. And Marissa devised a plan and smiled. She whispered it to Zikora's ears. "Marissa, I don't think that is a nice idea." He looked at her, astonished by the strength in her voice. For the first time in what felt like forever, he felt a spark of hope. What could be the plan? Will Zittery win back her brother to herself? Let's see how far they are all willing to go to achieve their plans. You can't eat your cake and have it. Watch out for part 3 of this intriguing story.